Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test.
I'm not here. I'm not. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
What did I say? What did I say? You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. You need to go. You need to go. You need to leave. It's not safe here. Oh shit. Just don't look at this. Don't look at this. Don't look. Stop looking at this. Ignore everything that you're seeing. Nothing is going on here. Nothing is going on.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
You people don't get a hint, do you? Can't you see? You're not supposed to be here. Leave. Go away. It's not safe here. See what you see. Now you can't unsee this. You can't unsee this.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
No.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Okay, so you're not leaving. What do you want? I need answers. I don't need your... You shouldn't be here. And why are you here? You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't exist. You're not real. You're a figment of my imagination. You see, you don't exist. And if you did exist, I would know. And you don't exist, therefore, it's not possible for you to be here. So, go away. Oh, frick, that was the wrong button. Oh dear, I've totally messed this up. Oh, I'm embarrassed. Oh dear, oh, look at me go. Okay. There you go. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. You saw nothing. Nothing. And nothing. Also, nothing? Did I mention nothing? Because no. Absolutely not. Nothing happened. If anything happened, you would know. Actually, no, I would know because you're not real. And since you're not real, you're not in a capacity to know. And therefore you wouldn't know, and I would know. So you stop. You see, my mind is a palace. It's like this grand space full of atriums beyond atriums, in which anybody that actually existed would always have a place to stay within my brain. And if you don't have a place to stay in my brain, then you don't exist. Since you don't exist, it's impossible for you to have a place in my brain. And since you don't have a place in my brain, you don't exist. That is how this works. That is definitely how this works. Also, by the way,
this is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Inside of a cornucopia, and that is why you can't be racist if you're black or white, but any other, absolutely, without question. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, you caught all that, right? You did catch all that, because if you didn't catch all that, I mean, like, you're gonna have to start from the beginning, and I can't start from the beginning, that's too complicated. It sounds like, okay, so, listen, okay, I'm beginning to think that there are voices inside of my head, and, they're actually maybe real. Cause if you're real, I would know, and I would know if you're real. So, prove to me that you're real. How are you real? Is it possible to... Okay, how does one prove that they're real? That is the real question. Because if it was a fake question, then nobody would be able to answer it, except for those stupid teachers that always ask you those trick questions just to screw you over. I mean, these are all very important questions. Indeed. So, mushrooms are a very interesting thing, and, well, you see, if you eat a mushroom, then it makes it so that you're put into a position where...
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Are you not sick of spying on me yet? You think you're gonna catch me finding something disgusting every single time? Get out of here. Go away. Leave.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this information. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission. This is a public broadcast test.
Oh, it seems that,
Please ignore this transmission.
There goes the immersion. You're just hearing me breathing for like the last minute, just like, what? I tried. That's awkward. Oh gosh, no. Oh, will you stop spying on me in this crap? I just can't.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Guys, if you keep this up, you're gonna get me banned. You need to stop looking at me when I do things. Because when I do things, it's shut up. You don't know. My mic is on when it's meant to be on, and it's off when I'm not here, which is all the time. Ignore the notification that I have for me not talking, because that's all I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be talking to you about...
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Fundamental theory about why Sonic fanfiction really...
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
And if Luke Skywalker and Rey Solo, whatever her... okay, what's her name? Rey. Does she even have a last name? I don't know. But if they were just to, just...
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
sit and...
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.
Systems. So there you go. Are you happy now? Do you understand everything there is to understand? Because if you don't, I'm going to be livid. Absolutely livid. Do you get it? You get it? Please tell me you get it. Tell me right now. Tell me in your heart that you get it. Oh, you're correct. I did not actually watch Star Wars at its recent test. Because who would? It's all dead. It's a dream. It's an imagination. It's a fantasy. It's whatever we want it to be. It's this big gargantuan monster of I don't care anymore. What is a cornucopia? And how did it get its name? You know what? We're going to learn something today. Find out the origins of a cornucopia. Cornucopia. Yeah. Let's find out what that is, shall we? Cornucopia comes from the Latin cornucopiae, which translates literally as horn of plenty. A traditional staple of feasts, the cornucopia is believed to represent the horn of a goat from Greek mythology. According to legend, it was from this horn that the god Zeus was fed as an infant. Truly, this is incredible. Indubitably. 10 out of 10. We really learned something today. We really understand. But you know what? Let's look further. Why not? No. Oh, wait. No, that's not what I wanted. We want Wikipedia. That's where I'm gonna get banned for tits. Oh no. Oh no. No. No, stop. Even if it's art. Oh, fuck. All right, put on your brain oh, fuck. Guys, I'm gonna get banned for classical art. Guys, just look at some of those fresh children. That's worse. That's worse. Oh, you cheered for me, did you? Isn't that nice of you? Oh, but the notifications, they've changed. You gotta do a little bit more for things to explode on me every 5 seconds now. Gotcha, boy. So let's see, modern depictions. The modern depiction in the cornucopia is typically a hollow, horn-shaped wicker basket filled with a variety of kinds of festive fruits and vegetables. In most of North America, the cornucopia has come to be associated with Thanksgiving and the harvest. Cornucopia is also the name of the annual November food and wine celebration in Whistler, British Columbia, Canada. Sometimes I wonder if I have a speech impediment. 2 cornucopias are seen in the flag and state seal of Idaho. The Great Seal of North Carolina depicts liberty standing in plenty, holding liberty standing in plenty. Oh, those are probably names of people. The coat of arms of Colombia, Panama, Peru, and Venezuela, and the coat of arms of the state of Victoria, Australia, also feature the cornucopia, symbolizing prosperity. In Terry Pratchett's Discworld series of fantasy novels, the witch Tiffany Aching was briefly in possession of the cornucopia, which is badge of office of summer. Typo. Got 'em. When she contracted avatarism, as well as ped fecundus, during the event of Winter Smith. Oh my gosh, okay, yep. This is, legendary, absolutely legendary. Oh boy. You know what, let's look at some more, shall we? Mythology offers multiple explanations for the origin of the cornucopia. One of the best known involves the birth and nurturance of the infant Zeus, who had to be hidden from the devouring father Cronus. I can read, in a cave of Mount Ida, on the island of Crete, baby Zeus was cared for and protected by a number of divine attendants, including the goat Amalthea, nourishing who fed him with her milk. The suckling future king of the gods had unusual abilities and strength, and in playing with his nursemaid accidentally broke off one of her horns, which he then had divine power to provide unending nourishment as the foster mother of the good for them. Good for them. This article brought to you by a nerd. You know what? Education, as a whole, is superiorly important to whatever bullshit meme you thought I was going to be persuading you with today. So you could just take my ass and do with it as you please in a very platonic way, and exclusively in a platonic way. In another myth, the cornucopia was created when Heracles wrestled with the river god Achilles and wrenched off one of his horns. River gods were sometimes depicted as horned. This virgin is represented in the Hecaclocos and the Merleburgh by the American religionalist artist Thomas Hart Barton. The cornucopia became the attribute of several Greek and Roman deities, particularly those associated with the harvest, prosperity, or spiritual abundance. Spiritual abundance. Such as personifications of Earth, the child Plutus, god of riches and son of the grain goddess Demeter. Demeter? Dem titties. Indeed. Abstract deities, blah blah blah, prosperity, don't care. Alright, have we learned something today or not? Now let me tell you about a story. Once upon a time, I didn't care to finish the story. Thank you.
This is a public broadcast test. Please ignore this transmission.